On this week's episode, I'm joined by Nilton, widely considered one of Portugal's funniest men, a comedian, a TV presenter, and a man who has tricked thousands of people over the phone. We discuss, amongst other things, how traveling all over Portugal inspired his comedy, what makes him proud of Portugal, and what he learned while making all of those prank phone calls. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life. And it's a real honor to be joined here by Nilton. Nilton, hello. Thank you for being on the podcast.
No problem.
How are you?
I say thank you for inviting me. A long time ago, I don't speak in English, so let's go.
Nilton, for our Portuguese listeners, you don't need any introduction. But for our listeners from overseas, maybe you can tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm actually a taxpayer, so I live in Portugal. That's the main thing I do is pay tax. When people ask me, what do you do? Well, I'm a taxpayer. What do you want me to do? Most past years, last 20 years, I'm living as a comedian, a stand-up comedian. And I used to say stand-up comedian, and sometimes I do radio and TV whenever it has to be. But mostly I'm a comedian. But I would be a comedian even if I was a carpenter or anything else, because I think comedy is in you. So you can be a comedian without paying taxes as a comedian. You can be a comedian in your life with all around you and everything you see. So I'm a comedian.
Brilliant. What I know you got two young children. What do they think about what Dad does?
Well, the biggest one is 11, and I took him for a long time since he was very young to my shows. I have a good memory. First time he went to a show and he realized what I was doing. Was almost three years old, and then he went with my wife. He was there for 1 minute. He said, "I'm going away," and she said, "Why?" "Because they're laughing of Dad." And I'm going away. So he was upset because he was listening. Everybody listening, he said, "No, it's not good." But now he realized, and he see me on TV and everything. The youngest doesn't have biggest memory of that because, well, for the past 2 years he doesn't go to any show and anything. So he doesn't quite realize what I'm doing and why who pays the bills and everything.
So he'll learn. He'll learn. Eventually, all of this will become a memory, and you know, I think you're luckier than what I am, Nilton, because you've got two sons, you know, and sons up until they never stop thinking that Dad is cool or that Dad is funny. I've got two daughters, and Dad stopped being funny and cool many years ago, you know. So it's one of those things. It's good. It's good.
No, I'm the same ship as you. My son, sometimes I say something. My son, my oldest son, say, "Oh, that's cringe," and you say, "What?" But he say in English. He doesn't say in Portuguese. Portuguese would be like "fuleiro" or "I don't like it" or whatever. But he says, "That's cringe, Dad." Okay, that's cringe.
So you've got an in-house critic there that can check your material for you.
Very good. Very much.
Nilton, I mean, what would you consider your hometown in Portugal, and tell people about it?
Well, I live in Lisbon. And I can talk about it because I came from Angola. I was born in Angola, and I've lived in the middle of, because my father and my grandfather, they both from Angola. They never.
Wow. Okay.
Most of the people from Portugal went to Angola, but my father and my grandfather, they never went there. They never went because they were there already. They born there. I supposed to be darker, but I wasn't long enough there, maybe. But maybe I'm adopted or something. Yeah, but I lived in Angola. Then I went to the middle of Portugal, in a small town. Then I went to Algarve and then Lisbon. So from 10 years, I'm sending away
Lisbon.
from towns. So now I'm in Lisbon, the capital, and great city, small. Yeah, for most people say, oh, Lisbon is so big. No, it's a small city. I live in front of the sea. Is Algés is near Lisbon, is 2 minutes from Lisbon, and I like it a lot. I always wanted to come to Lisbon, and for my profession, that's where almost everything happens, from TV, radio, and those things. And Portugal, you can travel in 4 hours. You are in the other corner of Portugal, so it's a small country.
You travel quite a bit before pandemic. You travel quite a bit for shows and for your work. What are some of the places that you like to go?
Well, everything was before pandemic. Now we have to put it like Jesus, AC/DC, before Christ, after Christ. So before COVID, after COVID is the same. Yeah. So we can say it again, AC/DC. So well, I like the north. Mostly the north. I went every time we have a weekend or something free. Me and my wife, we went to Porto. We like Porto a lot. We like Guimarães. The Douro is a very nice and quiet place, but Alentejo is cool as well. I do with a friend of mine something. We call it like No Destiny, and we grab our bikes. He has a bike, and we get together in the Alentejo, and then we go through Portugal only in national roads. We don't go to biggest roads and everything, only in nationals. And we stop whenever we want to stop. We sleep whenever we want to sleep, without like that, no destiny. And Portugal is a very nice country, but mostly the north. The north is the place.
And why do you like the north so much compared to some of the other places?
Maybe because I lived in the Algarve so many years. Algarve is great, of course, and Alentejo is great places. Are great places. Well, last year I went to Alentejo for a lot of days with my wife on a bike again, and it's a great place as well. But maybe because I lived in the Algarve and I spent there 12 years, so I have to compensate the north for 12 years at least. So then I'll start over again. But the north has a certain magic, and people from the north, they are very spectacular. I used to say, if you ask for something for somebody from the north, you say, oh, what is Casa da Música, or House of the Music, and you have to go dinner in his house. If he doesn't have a daughter for you to marry her, he will make it. He will make a daughter for you to marry her. So they are very friendly people, very friendly. Okay. They are always receiving, always open for you. So even as an artist, I feel that. I prefer, if you tell me, what do you prefer to perform, I prefer the north, always.
You feel that in the audience, it's a different type of reception?
Yeah. You feel it. Yeah, they are. Well, people from down here, they think it's funny for both, but they put it more. They express it more in the north.
Okay.
For good and worth.
Yeah. So if you suck, you also if you're having a bad night, you also know very quickly.
Yeah. They don't hide it.
I remember my first trip to Porto many years ago, and I got really badly lost somewhere in some historical part of the city in these little narrow roads, and I couldn't get out, and I didn't know which way to go. And an old man was in his garage, and he was fixing his car or something. And he came out, and in perfect English, he said to me, "Are you lost?" Because it was before I could speak Portuguese. And he asked me if I was lost. And I said, "Yeah, I'm lost. I don't know how to get here." He said, "Just hold on." And he walked inside, and him and his wife were yelling things at each other. I thought they were having a fight. I learned as well in Portugal, that's not fighting, that's just talking. And
it's like the Italians. The Italians are like that. Yeah.
And then next minute he came out on his little motorbike, and instead of just telling me where to go, I followed him, and I followed him out of the area, and then he just waved and off he went. And so yeah, I've learned that firsthand, that people will do more than they need to help. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Where do you came from? Where do you came from?
South Africa.
South Africa. Great.
Yeah.
Great
So I was
place.
born in South Africa, and I moved here in 2009.
A friend of mine told me once that Cape Town is the best town to live in the world. I don't know. Is from Switzerland. He also has a house here in Portugal, Angola, and Cape Town. He said, "No, Cape Town is the best place."
It's beautiful.
You know,
Yeah. Tell me.
No, tell me. I'll tell you.
No, it's a beautiful city. I don't know it very well because I'm from Johannesburg, which is like 2,000 kilometers away. Johannesburg's not such a nice place to live, but Cape Town is different. Cape Town is beautiful. It's beautiful.
You know, my grandfather, the father of my granddaughter, father of my granddaughter was from South Africa. He was a Boer. I don't know how do you say Boer.
Boer, a farmer.
Boer. Yeah. He was a Boer. He's from those who went from Netherlands to South Africa.
Okay. Yeah,
he was blonde and blue eyes. That's at least that's the explanation I get. Me and my brother, because we have two sons. Me and my brother have sons blonde with blue eyes. So instead of saying, "Well, we have a neighbor," we say, "Okay, my grandma." But my son, my nephew seemed like from Dutchland or from Netherlands, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, my son, my baby boy Benjamin, he's a copy paste of me, and so my father-in-law, he's Portuguese. When Benjamin was born, he said, "Dylan, you don't have to worry. He's yours. You know, it's okay. He looks just like you. He looks just like you."
You see my problem.
Yeah. Nilton, I mean, my first introduction to you was when I first moved to Portugal. And I used to listen to you on the radio, making phone calls and tricking people. It was phenomenal. I know this is now some years back. But I just thought this was an amazing thing. Can you remember some of your favorite prank phone calls that you made back then?
Well, so many. Well, I keep doing it, but not on the radio every day like I used to. Sometimes I do it for companies that want, can you come here and do a phone call and do a show for us? And most of the times I do phone calls for them as well. But on the radio, maybe, I don't know, so many. Well, I like one because it's so nonsense and tricky for the guy I found to, because there was a guy who he had his car on the internet. He was selling his car, and I rang him and said, I just want to tell you I'm not interested. He said, "What? I'm not interested in your car." He said, okay, so can you tell me your name so I can write it down? When did we talk about it? I said, "No, we never talked." He said, "So if we never talked, why you want to say you're not interested in the car?" I said, "Because maybe you put the ad and then you are at home waiting for someone to call you. So I saw the ad and I'm already calling you saying I'm not interested." And he said, but that's stupid. But if you're not interested, you're not supposed to call me. He said, "Yeah, but I was feeling bad because you could be at home waiting for me to call you saying that I'm interested, and I'm calling already saying I'm not interested." And it was like a twist in his mind. It was crazy. And then he started shout and saying bad words. There was most of the time people used to say that. I have a phone call that I've called to a neighbor saying, "Oh, did you change your internet password?" She said, "No, why?" "Well, because I'm not getting it. I used to get it for 1 year, and now I'm not getting it. Did you didn't pay, or what's happening? Can you see that? Can you reboot your router or whatever?" And she started shouting, and it's a funny way to make comedy, because it's like going to a stage, going to a theater, but there's no script, and the other people don't know they are on a theater, on a play, And it's like I used to say, making a prank call is like hypnotize someone, because you have to bring the person, you have to convince that person that she's in that story. You have to bring her to your story, and then keep her hypnotized without waking her up. That's it. Without waking her up, and you have to be like that in that hypnotized, because sometimes happen people saying, "Are you Nilton?" Because this seems like a Nilton phone call, and I say, "No, I'm not Nilton." Okay, carry on. And then people won't carry on. Well, that's that point where they are almost waking up, but they keep sleeping and they keep hypnotized in my story.
Well, I mean, I look back to those, so many of those calls. I mean, there were so many times where I walked into my office late because I was sitting in the car listening to how this was going to end. And so, yeah, I need to send you a bill because of the times that I lost pay. But I'm joking. But Nilton, I mean, one of the things that it gave me such an insight into the Portuguese culture and mindset, because there were things that you learned about people because of those phone calls. There were things that you learned about the Portuguese custom and culture, and because we had a similar thing in South Africa, which was a guy called, you should check him out, you might enjoy it as well. It was a guy called Darren Wackhead Simpson. And he used to do the same thing. He used to call people and prank phone call them, but he used to use a voice. Darren or Derek, but it was called Wackhead. Wackhead, Wackhead, Wackhead. Yeah. Very good. But he used to use a voice modifier on the phone. So you used to not do that. You just used to change your voice completely, which is amazing.
Yeah, but I can talk like this or whatever you want.
Oh, I can talk like this. I'm calling you as normally, and I can do it like that.
Exactly. I never knew what you looked like. I used to picture, I don't know what I pictured. I used to picture, I had a very different idea of what you looked like because of the voices that you used. But but one of the things, there was always a pattern in the thing. First, you had the person would be confused. Okay. And sometimes the person thought, oh, is it Nilton or not? And then they would get past that. You would get past that. Then the person would get angry and lots of swearing and shouting. And then the person, once, you got to the end, then the person would laugh and they would then apologize for getting angry. That was always the pattern. But this was always the pattern with people there. And then they would apologize afterwards, which I thought was just so funny. But one of the things that I loved was the trust that people had. Everyone believed. Almost every single person believed. This was something very much part of that I saw straight away, because with Wackhead in South Africa, it would work like 50% of the time. 50% of the time, people would say, Wackhead, I know it's you, go to hell. But with you, it was people used to believe. And that was something that I thought was such a beautiful thing, was this trust that people had. They trusted. They trusted who they were talking to.
But it's dangerous because you can see that people are easy to trick. It's easy to manipulate persons and to, if you want to do it in a bad way, it's easy. It's very dangerous. And a friend of mine, Francisco Menezes, is a comedian as well. He used to say about these phone calls, about what you said, people in the end asking me sorry for swearing and for being upset. And he said it's very funny, because when that person thought she was the conversation was only between you and her, she was upset. But when you say no, you were making foolish of yourself for 1 million listeners. Oh, I'm sorry. And should be the other way. And he said it's always funny how people apologize. You were making you should be apologize. No, and they always people apologizing to you.
Yeah, I mean, did you learn anything about Portuguese people, Portuguese culture in those years of doing those phone calls? Because you get right into people's homes, into their personal lives. You see it in a very raw way. What were some of the things that you learned and appreciated about Portuguese people?
Well, what I appreciate, and I used to know, I've done a talk show, Cinco para Meia-Noite, for 7 years. That's right. And I do a lot of vox pop in the street and talk to a lot of. I do a lot of sketch in the streets, and one thing I always knew, and with the phone calls the same, is Portuguese people we are very nice. We are. You go on the street and you like you were saying about those guys in Porto. We are like that. You say, oh, can you tell me please something? We don't know what you're talking about. We don't know how to answer, but we stay there. If you go with the camera, it's brilliant. Sometimes I go to the street and say, for example, the other day I was doing something for a car company about the hybrid. Hybrid in Portugal can also means hybrid. For example, is like is a double meaning. And the question was, what about if your son, for example, goes to you and say, Father, I like, well, now I'm most of like hybrid, you know. And I was like a tricky. Maybe he wants to change sex. Maybe he likes boys or whatever. People, I was making people think that, like hypnotized the same way. And I was with my microphone. What about if your son comes to you and say, "Oh, I'm most about hybrid at the moment," and we were talking about cars, and people say, "If my son comes to me and say that, I would kick him out of my house and everything." and people, and I always think it's very funny because it's a Portuguese characteristic. We don't know what you're talking about, but we stay there. I'll say, you know about this? No, but can you talk about it? Yeah, okay. It's really funny, and we are like that. We are very, very. I think, I don't know. You can tell me because you are not from here. We are very nice persons, most.
I think so. Very nice people, very nice people, and great senses of humor, Nilton. I mean, you're a good example of that, but in general, Portuguese people have a pretty good sense of humor, and it surprises people actually, because when you compare it to the Spanish are quite serious and they take themselves a little bit too seriously, but Portuguese have got a good sense of humor and will laugh just about anything, and they'll laugh at themselves. And that's something that you would have experienced as well. People are happy to laugh at themselves.
Wouldn't be you couldn't have humor without people know how to laugh about themselves. Now we have to, and we have a lot to laugh about ourselves as well.
I think everybody does. What you're this multi-talented guy. You comedy is such a huge part of your life. How did growing up in Portugal and you grew up in different places and were exposed to different cultures as well? How did that influence your humor and your comedy?
Well, we are a small country, but we are very different from the north to the south. Different in the way of speaking, different in the way of being. For example, in the Algarve. The way people live, 6 months a year working very hard, the other 6 months very lazy, very cool down because there are no tourists. In the north, people work a lot and work more all through the years. This is different economy, even not because of the people, because of the economy of the place. And for me, it's good for comedy because I've learned and I can talk about most of them. I talk about the way they speak. I can talk about even when I go to perform, for example, in Faro, I know how they live. I live there. When I go to the north, I go a lot of times to north, so I know how they speak. I know how they act. I have a lot of friends there, so I think traveling is very good for you because and if you do comedy, you have to know about everything. So traveling is very good. And even when you discovering Portugal as a tourist, I think you can feel that. You can feel the people are more warm in this side or less warm in that side. People are, for example, if you stop what I was saying about the Porto, if you stop in the Porto, people go talk to you. If you stop in a small town, people go like, "Oops, what's happening? Hey, who's this guy? What do you want?" So it's very funny to understand those differences in such a small country, because this could be like a town in Mexico. Or yes. Portugal was a town.
And I mean, did you have? your experience of growing up in those places, did it influence you as a comedian at all? Did it give you experiences that shaped your comedy? Did it just expose you to different ways of seeing the country, seeing the world?
Well, you are a mixture of everything you've lived. So of course, as influenced me as a person, and I'm a comedian behind that person. So always bring me more background. As I used to say to my son, you have to have background, and what it gave me was background and different persons, how to deal with the difference of the human being, because we all different, how to see that you for example, in Lisbon, where I live now, we are more in a bubble, because people of the town mostly are most look-alike, almost the same. We live in condoms. You are like in the bubble, and if you go outside and living in different places, takes you out of the bubble, and that's very important, that you come out of your bubble and you see people living in other ways, people with different cultures than yours. Even with a lot of tourists, I work in Kiss FM in the Algarve, first professional radio I've worked, not in the first radio, but first professional radio was Solar FM and Kiss FM in the Algarve, and I was one of the founders of Kiss FM. Paul Buick was an English guy, and he even speaking with people from different countries and everything was very important, because you learn from everybody. You can see, you bring world to yourself. It's like reading or traveling, or
yeah. I mean, what are some of the things, Nilton, that make you proud of Portugal? I'm proud of your country.
Well, that we keep being, like I said, very cool. I think we are cool. We are cool people. We are open. We are. I think we are in this 21st century. We don't have mostly racism. We are open to people from the same sex marriage. I think we are. I was looking for the right word to say. We are evoluted. No, I don't know.
Evolved.
We are evolved country, and at the same time we keep the old things like gastronomy, like the architecture of some buildings, some places. So we have a good mixture. I mean, we have a good mixture as past and future, and it's a very nice place. A friend of mine, Brazilian, he says, "What Nilton? What I like from Portugal." He lives in São Paulo, Brazil, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. And you know what I like to do in Portugal? I like to come here with my iPhone, and with my iPhone only in the air like this. I walk in Lisbon with my iPhone in the air, just like that, and nobody steals me. And you can do that in Portugal. You can leave your car. A lot of times I forgot my car in the middle of Lisbon. When I was living right in the middle of Lisbon, my car opened for one weekend and nobody took nothing. So it's a great place. You live in a great place like that.
Yeah, it's so safe. That's for me the same coming from South Africa to here. That is one of the huge differences and the huge changes that I experienced. I mean, Portugal has become very, very popular in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years internationally. A lot more exposure. Lisbon gets a lot more exposure. Porto. But for you, Nilton, what are some of the things that you would like people to know about your country, about the food, about the people, about anything that perhaps they don't know already?
Well, I think you, as I said, we're such a small country. You can travel in 5 hours. You are in the other side of Portugal, but you can eat a lot of different things if you go to Guimarães or Porto, or if you go to the Algarve, or if you go to the east side, or to the other side, the coast, or to the other side. And what I think is what people should learn is like when I was traveling before I have kids, I used to travel without destiny. I was grabbing a flight with my wife for Italy, for example, and just, where do we sleep tonight? I don't know. And you can do that in Portugal. I'm very glad that you can do that in Portugal. You will never stay in a place without an hotel, and you will always experience the new things and different foods, and it doesn't have to be a Michelin star or whatever. You will never get lost, and you will never get defrauded, or I don't know how to say it in English. It will never be bad for you. You say, oh, well, what is this? No, you'll have be with your belly full, and you will experience a lot of different things, and like you are in another country. If you go to the Algarve, and what do you eat in the Algarve? If you go to the north, sometimes it seems like, is this the same country? Yeah, it's the same country. And what I like people to know is that you can travel and experience. You always be amazed and surprised with what you will find.
Is there a place that you haven't been in Portugal that you still want to visit and experience?
I don't know all the islands from the Azores. I know 4. They are 9, so I'm like
They're 9
at the moment.
Jesus, I didn't know there were 9. Wow.
Yeah,
I've been to 1.
Okay, there are 9 islands. So one thing I know the other 2 in Madeira and Porto Santo, but the Azores, Pico, for example, is one of the places I've never been, and I want to for a long time. Is a magic place. I think Azores is mainly the most magical place we have. If you have like the Lord of the Rings place that you have like in New Zealand, maybe would be Azores. If they wanted to record, we want to shoot Lord of the Rings too, but New Zealand has this COVID thing and they don't want us there, so come to Azores. You can make it there. It's a very, very special place, and I have to visit all the islands.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I want to do more of the Azores. Looks absolutely amazing. Looks beautiful. And what about, life for your children here, Nilton? What do you think about Portugal as a place for children to grow up and to have a good life?
Well, it's the place you can. I have a few friends, for example. My sons are in an international school, and they have a lot of nationalities, a lot of people from all the places all over the world. And what people say, for example, from Brazil, they have a few colleagues from Brazil, and what the fathers say to me, the other father says, my son was traveling from my car. A car protected for shooting and all those things, to school, from school to mall maybe once a week, and then from the mall to the condominium as well, home. And here children are free. My sons go down here and they walk. Well, they don't walk to school because it's a little bit far, but they could. And it's the most precious thing that you have, that you can have, is you are safe and secure, and you know nothing's going to happen to them. And we are talking about Lisbon, the main town in Portugal. If you trust your children to walk on the street in Lisbon, well, it's everything said. Yeah, the thing is that this is the most precious thing that you can have is safety. Yeah, of course, the weather and everything, but we already have that. So
exactly.
We ask for safety.
Exactly. Nilton, you as a comedian, you're always looking for material to use on your shows. And I mean, where do you get some of your best material from in Portugal? Is it the politicians? Is it the people? Is it a little bit of everything? Where do you get some of your best material?
Well, I like the everyday life, because everyday life, everybody understands. Yeah, everybody understands what we've been through. For example, with COVID, everybody understands what we if you go to the toilet, if you go to supermarkets. So it's the main thing for me. Because of course I like politics as well. I speak a lot about politics, and now at this moment we are we're gonna have government change or not, we don't know it. And of course we have to talk about it as well, because I think all the world is living this same problem that we have, is a lot of small people coming up, and a lot of polarized stuff, and these extremes that we live in at this moment. And we are passing came to Portugal as well, and of course I'm always doing jokes. Most of the times what happened is the jokes, they already come done. With politics, sometimes it's difficult to how are you going to discuss change or make a joke over a joke, because sometimes things come, this is already a joke, why, how are you going to make a joke over that? It's like, and most of the times reality is better than fiction, so it's better, it's bad for us as Portuguese, but it's happening all over the world, so we have to deal with it. And make jokes. Okay, that's the only solution, is make a joke.
We have to laugh. We have to laugh at these things.
Yeah.
We have to laugh at these things. Brilliant. Nilton, what is one thing that you would like people to remember or take away from our conversation?
Well, I like you to think about a country that you, for example, you are on a plane, God no, and your plane has to land here, and you can't leave from Portugal for 10 years or whatever. And what I want people to think is, wow, what a nice place. Good thing that happened to me. The plane land here. I said land, not crashed. Okay.
Yeah, that's important. There's a big difference.
Big difference. So I think the most important is, yeah, what a nice place to live. What a nice place to stay. Without knowing, because of course it's a small country. Most of the people don't know about Portugal, most of the people in the world. But trust me, you will find a great country, and you'll find something you will appreciate.
Brilliant. Thank you. How can listeners follow you online? Follow your work, keep up to date with what you're doing, and what have you got coming up?
Well, I'm at this moment I'm like in standby because I do most comedy, stand-up comedy. At this moment, I appreciate what I took from COVID is to take time for myself to draw, take time for myself to take pictures, because I like a lot take pictures. So we are like in standby. All the world is like in these crazy times. And what I do, for example, in the other day I was in Nazaré. Nazaré is a great place for surf, for big waves. And what I take from this time is waves in Nazaré. Okay, I can go. I'm not doing nothing special, because everybody's in the shows at the moment are like this crazy standby. So what I'm doing is I'm always writing, but we always writing. Yeah. Comedian, like you said, is always writing, always creating material. So what I'm doing is creating and putting some stuff on the internet at this moment. That's what I'm doing.
Brilliant. Did you enjoy seeing the waves?
Well, yeah, I love them. I love them.
Amazing.
I love Nazaré. I love the energy there, and those crazy waves gives me really nice picture. Well, when we start talking, I was actually editing some for printing. I'm gonna do some printing, big printings of the waves. Last year, people asked me, so I was doing it.
I saw some photos recently that you published. Did you take those photos?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I'm an amateur photographer, but I'm not a photographer, but I love to take pictures. So whenever I feel That is great for pictures. Oh, I'll go there. Well, do we have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Okay, no problem. I go there. For those pictures, I was awake at 4:30 in the morning, and I went to Nazaré alone. Driving, and I was in Nazaré at night, and the sun was shining and everything. I was taking picture. My wife saying, "You crazy? Why you go there so early?" I said, "Yeah, because I have to go there."
It reminded you of your radio days, getting up that early.
Yeah. Well,
Brilliant.
like
how can people follow you, Nilton? How can people follow you and stay in touch with your work?
Instagram and Facebook. You know my card. When you have a meeting, you give card to persons. There was a time my manager said, "No, that is stupid. You can't do that." I made cards only white paper without nothing written in it, nothing. And people, I went to a meeting, and people, okay, here's my card. For example, the CEO of the company, here's my card. And I was grabbing a white paper without nothing, say, here's my card. Say, but nothing here. Yeah, but in these days, if you need me to write something, why? You go to Google, you go to Instagram, you go to Facebook, and I'm there like everybody else. You say, okay, yeah, okay. I'll find you. If you really want to find me, you don't need my cards to find me. So I'm there, and find me. It was like a challenge. But my manager said, "No, it's stupid. You can't do that. It's offensive. It's offensive to give a white card to the CEO of the company. He's paying you to go there." I said, "Okay, I won't do it anymore."
I like it. I might have to adopt that strategy. Nilton,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put some links in the show notes that people can follow. We try to make it easy for people, and sometimes people are just lazy. So we'll put some links in the show notes that people can find you and keep up to date with your work. A question that we ask all of our guests: Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Because life is to keep simple. It's to keep simple. Why complicate? And if you find a place you can keep it simple, enjoy it. This best too fast. Life's too fast.
Yeah, that's true. Nilton, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
That's a wrap. Yeah.
So thank you once again to Nilton, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We'd love to hear from you. And as we say in Portugal, Te próxima. Welcome to the simple life.